In this video, I'll show you how to make a simple sprocket. So I'm going to start by doing File New. I'm going to click No, and I'm going to choose Small Objects in Inches. So it says here the absolute tolerance is 0.001 inch. So I'm just going to click Open. I'm going to double click and work on the top viewport. So I'm going to start by doing what we call the keyhole. So it's going to be the centerpiece of my sprocket. So I'm going to draw a circle. Place it at 0, so I just right click, position it, and now I have to give its diameter. So I make sure that diameter is in bold, and now I know that I'm working in decimals, but I can also key in fractions in Rhino. It will understand the size. So now for the diameter size, I know that it needs to be 1/8 of an inch in diameter, so I type in 1/8, for example, and I press enter. So now I've got this diameter of 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to place a point. I'm going to snap it in quad, and I'm just going to place a point here. Okay, so this point is at the quad of that circle. I'm going to select that point, and that's going to I'm going to be using this as a reference geometry, okay, as a helping tool for my drawings. So I'm going to take this point, I'm going to make a copy of it. So snap to the point, or in quad, it's the same, like that. And I need to make it 1/16 of an inch high. So I'm going to type in 1/16, enter. And now I've constrained the distance, so I just press shift to constrain on the vertical axis only, and I left click to place my second point, and then I just right click to complete the task. Now from this point, that is 1/16 of an inch from my circle, I need to make a line that will be 1/16 of an inch wide. So I'm going to go to my line tool, and I'm going to start from the midpoint. So I choose the third icon here, line from midpoint. So I snap to point, I snap to this point, and since I need to make 1/16 wide, I'm going to put the measurement for one side, which is 132. So 1/32. Enter, and I press shift and left click to create my line. So this line overall is 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so now I need to draw a line that goes from this point and all the way down here. So I can just create a line, snap to end point like this, and I press shift and I just bring it down, left click and then right click. Now I need to trim this line, so I go to trim, select my circle, enter, and then I remove this part. Now I know that I need to make a symmetry, so I need to send this on the other side. So I just go to above my move icon, and I can pull the transformation toolbar, and I can find here the mirror icon. So I just make sure that I snap to endpoint or to point, and I can grab this point and I press shift to constrain on the y-axis, and I left click to make a copy. Always make sure that copy equals yes. Okay, sometimes it could be copy equals no, so you won't be able to make that copy. You're just going to pass the original to the other side, so make sure copy equals yes. Okay, so I've got these two lines, so I can remove what's in between here. So I just click trim, select line 1 and line 2, enter, and remove what's in between. I can select them all and make a join. So now I've got 4 curves joined into one closed curve. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the keyhole. Now I need to make the sprocket itself. So I know that the sprocket is 1 inch in diameter. So again, I go to my circle. I want the center to be at the origin, so it's 0. Right click to confirm. And I need to type in the diameter, which is 1 inch. So I type 1 and I press enter. So I've got 1 inch in diameter. So I'm going to start at the very top of my circle, so I can place a point that snaps in quad like this. And I'm going to draw a line that's going to start from the midpoint, and that is 1/16 of an inch wide. So basically I'm going to be making the tooth. Okay, so I'm going to extend my toolbar for lines, and again I'm going to use the line from midpoint. I make sure that I'm snapping at point on my snapping toolbar, and I go and grab that point, And now I've got my line. So now I need to give it a distance. So I know that overall it needs to be 1/16 of an inch. But since I'm working from the midpoint, it needs to be 1/32. So 1/32, enter. So now I press shift and left click to draw my line. So it's a bit hard to see, but it's here. Okay. So I can press F7 to remove the grid so that we see a little bit better. But there's the beginning, the top of my tooth. So I'm focusing on the tooth of one of the teeth of my sprocket. Okay. Now I need to create a line that goes at an angle that is specified. So it's an angle of 70 degrees, and it's going to be also a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to use the line tool, snap in endpoint, and go and grab that endpoint here. Now I know that I need to make it go 70 degrees. So I can use the symbol small. I have to use the symbol smaller than. Okay. So first I just need to make sure that I'm in the proper keyboard. There you go. So I'm going to type in the distance first. Okay. So I'm just going to say 1/16 for 1/16 of an inch. So I just sorry about that, a bit of a problem with my computer. So I just type in 1/16 of an inch and I just right click. So now I've constrained the distance. Now I have to constrain by angle. So now I have to type the angle by doing smaller than, okay, and I type -70, enter. So now you can see that I'm snapping to every 70 inches like this. And now, so I've constrained the angle and the distance, and I just left click, and there you have it. Okay. So I know that I have to send this copy on the other side. So it's just a matter of doing a mirror. So I go back here, I do mirror, select it, right click, select my point, press shift, left click, and there you have it. So now I can select all these three lines and make join. Three curves joined into one open curve, which is perfect. Okay, so now I know that I need to make 18 copies of that teeth, of that tooth, I mean. So I just select my tooth, and I'm going to do what we call a polar array. So I just bring my cursor here, and I go and select this icon, polar array. So it's asking me the center of my polar array. So I type in 0. It's always the same thing. So we can see the little white dot that shows up here. That's the origin point. And I want 18 teeth. So I type in 18 copies for number of items, and I right click. I will make sure that in bold it's 360 degrees. Okay, make sure that your angle fill is 360. Okay, so it's okay for me. I just right click again, and I have a little preview in white. So this is what it looks like with 18 teeth. I'm happy with it. I just right click to confirm it and freeze everything. So now I've got my 18 teeth. All right. So now it's just a matter of connecting the dots. So I'm just going to use the line tool, make sure that endpoint is checked on my snapping toolbar, and I go and grab this endpoint and that endpoint and right click. Again, I make another polar array. So I go back here, select polar array, center of my polar array, so it's in 0, so I type in 0. How many numbers? So I'll keep it to 18. I just right click, make sure that it's 360 degrees. That's fine. I just right click again. Here's a little preview. Now I freeze it, so I just right click again, and there you have it. So now I can select everything, and I click join. So now everything that is connected will join automatically like this. And I've got my keyhole, I've got my sprocket, and I don't need this. This is just a construction line. So I can always, for example, it's a good practice, a good habit. I can double click here and type in construction line like this. And I can select that construction line. I bring my cursor above the layer construction line, right click, and change object layer. And then I can hide by turning off the light bulb like this. I can also select all my points because I don't need them. I go under my selection filter and I go and select all the points, and I do the same thing. I bring my cursor above construction line, right click, change object layers, and it's turning off. Okay, now it's just a matter of doing a simple surface. So I can go into my perspective view, and now I'll show you some simple surfacing functions. So I've got fully flat curves, and they're both closed curves. I can select both of them like this. And if I bring my cursor here, which is where it's written surface from 3 or 4 corner points, and I expand this toolbar, these are all my tools needed for creating surfaces. So it's called Surface Creation Toolbar. So the one that I want is this one, the second icon. So it's called Surface from Planar Curve. So which is the case. In this case they're closed curves and they're fully planar. So I just click on this. And it's a bit hard to see because I'm working in wireframe, but something happened. So I just need to make sure that I go from wireframe to shaded mode, and I can see my surface. If I want to give thickness to my surface, I just select that surface. So if I give thickness to it, this time I'm going to create a solid. So I'm going to go from surface to solid. So I can go, for example, here on my solid menu, and I select left click on solid, and I want to extrude the surface. So basically I want to extrude my surface in a straight fashion like this, and I can give it a thickness. So I can type in the extrusion distance. I don't know, let's give it like 1/16. So I type in 1/16, 1/16, that's it, and I press enter, and there you have it. You've got your thickness of 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so that's how you use some of these tools, and try and practice it for yourselves. Use the same dimensions and repeat it until you get it just right. Okay, and we can move on to the next chapter. Thank you.